Hey everyone, Sean Rhodes here, Chief Sales Sergeant of Bulletproof Selling and author of the book Bulletproof Selling, a guide for systemizing sales on the battlefield of business. And if you haven't been able to figure it out, you're listening to the show, Bulletproof Selling. Here since day one, we have been helping salespeople, their managers, and their leaders remove hope from how they sell and how they serve. So over the course of more than 150 episodes, we've been bringing on Hall of Fame speakers, best-selling authors, folks that are out there in the field, guiding salespeople, helping them remove hope, and those that are actually carrying quota still, folks that have to get on the phone every day, send emails, and make sure that they are coming up with innovative ways to serve who they're selling to. And out of every one of these episodes, when we figure out with our guests, where are they seeing hope enter the lives of the salespeople in their environment, and we build a system to address it, a system that you can use no matter the size of your team or the size of your goals. So this is not a podcast. It's not a live stream of high strategy. Let's deal with the big issues, wrestle with them, and then leave you to figure it out on your own what to do about it. Now, if you're listening to Bulletproof Selling, then you're here for the tactics. You're here for the strategies. You're here for all of it so that you can immediately leave this show and begin to put it into practice. Now, if you're in sales long enough, you're going to have a day that's not going your way. You're going to have one of those days where you're making calls, nobody's picking up the phone. You're sending emails, no responses are coming in. You're sending out messages on social media, just not getting any traction. You're having what we call in sales a bad day. This is not uncommon in the field of sales, but what is uncommon is how you get out of that bad day, how you turn it around so that on the next call, they don't hear somebody that is just depressed with their lives, all right, that is just tired of, all the things that they have to do to drive conversations. Because if you are in the field of sales, and you're in it for the right reasons, it means you have a heart of service. You're here to make sure that you are reaching out to the people who you can serve, whose lives you can make better, whose businesses you can help grow. And yeah, it gets frustrating to put everything you have into that effort and not see the results. So if you don't have a way to turn it around, then you are leaving that up to the whims of fate, basically. And that doesn't work on a battlefield. I can tell you that of all the high performers I was able to embed with, to travel with, to fight alongside on battlefields around the world, yeah, they had a lot of bad days too, but they had ways to make sure that they were realigning on their mission, that they were getting back together with their teammates, that they kept their eye on the ball. Because if you lose that focus, you lose that energy, you lose that attention, bad things happen on the battlefield, and stay in business long enough, you'll see it happen in business as well. So our guest today is somebody with a love of sales process, which means obviously had to have him on Bulletproof Selling. Gregg Murphy is the investor advisor in a company called Patter AI. He's got a book coming out on the value of sales process, and he's going to show us some interesting and unique ways to make sure that if we are experiencing a bad day in sales, that we don't end the day in a bad way. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to welcome to the show, Mr. Gregg Murphy. Gregg, welcome, sir, to Bulletproof Selling.
It's great to be here, Sean. Really appreciate it.
So Gregg, go to your LinkedIn profile and you can see you've been in sales a hot minute. Now, it's been kind of a winding path. You haven't been in just, one role for your entire career. You've been able to move around a bit, get different experience. Tell us a little bit about what your journey in sales looked like.
Great question. It's been all over the place, and I think it's really been a journey of self-discovery for myself. It's started out is where my career really took off is really in Hawaii. And one of the things I found is that a lot of the sales strategies that I learned in the mainland to make me a successful salesperson didn't work or perform well in Hawaii. And I struggled with that. I go, gosh, why am I having such a hard time getting people to understand and say yes and to make decisions? And what I found is that a lot of the sales strategies that I were taught really kind of came from a place that it was like almost a form of manipulation and backing customers in corners with their words and using their words against them. And we've all been manipulated by a salesperson, and we all kind of want to shower over time. And so when you're sitting in across from a 350-pound Hawaiian brother, and you're trying to manipulate him, you're going to lose. So we learned that coming out of that pain was like I learned a process of how do we call it sell with aloha, how to treat people with respect and create a process that I can follow no matter if I'm speaking from somebody who maybe English is their second language. They might not understand the complicated product and process I'm selling. and to help them understand it in a way that transcends such. It's just a connection, it's a relationship, but trust is built in the meantime. And once we're able to build that and replicate it, we're able to expand the business drastically. In my own life, having just wonderful success in that, but also being able to replicate that with other companies and other sales organizations.
Now, I've been able to visit Hawaii myself, and it becomes very difficult for me to think of being in Hawaii and having a bad day. But yet I know, people in Hawaii struggle with a lot of issues, just like the rest of humanity does. So I'm curious then on the salesperson side, you've been able to work alongside a lot of salespeople and help them grow their teams, help them grow their results. If somebody's having a bad day, what is the hope that enters into that picture? What are they hoping happens or doesn't happen, when that day is not going the way that they want it to?
It's really, how do we turn that hope into action, and something that even as I'm talking about this, I always think about the middle class sales rep, meaning that you have your high performers, and you got the people that aren't performing well. High performers about 2% of the org, and then I'm talking about the middle class person that's a pretty good salesperson, but they're not like super confident, super strong, and maybe they had a bad day. Right, is kind of back to your point. They're in a slump. They're not performing where they want to perform. We found that by creating a process to where a sales rep could literally open up a sales binder or the sales software enablement tool, and right on that page is the decision to make. The talk point is right there. They're just helping customer make a decision. Did I fill that information out correctly? Yes. Did that make sense? Yep. Do you prefer the high efficiency product or a standard efficiency product? Which do you prefer? And helping customers make a decision on every one of those steps kind of takes people out of the mind of like, I got to sell, I got to make money, to just sit there and hang out with the customer and help them make decisions. And if your product's a good fit, fantastic. If it's not, fantastic. I bet you they have friends that would love to refer to me because I treated them well and I treated them with respect. So we found that it's process, always. And not folks that try to wing it, like we said, especially if they're in a slump or having a bad day. Man, I've been there. And it's just an emotionally abusive thing to do to yourself and to the customer. So that's what I'm saying. Always follow processes and scripts. And I feel like a lot of the processes, I'll probably maybe speak more to the manager side of this topic and not the sales rep, is that if you are having a hard time with your middle class, I'm telling you, if you can just grab one more sale out of that sales rep, and I'm talking about the middle class is like the tax basis. It's the largest tax basis. So you have the biggest momentum of potential there. You get one or two more sales out of the month, it's going to change your bottom line forever. And it's going to change their lives forever. That's the part that's what's so much fun about what we do in sales. But a lot of time, Sean, those processes that have been created are maybe manipulative, or maybe a super high-end confident rep created the process and it doesn't resonate well with people who aren't that confident. And so a lot of times is looking at the process and is it replicable? Can I train and develop a new person well to where they get out there and perform well? And if not, maybe we need to look at the process and it will help our sales reps along. So we're not hoping to do better. They can actually function better.
It can actually function better. So, and I've also heard, so often in life that the breakthroughs are just on the other side of the breakdowns. But as a sales rep, it's really scary to see the breakdown happen over the course of a day, a week, a month, even a quarter, and say, this is not going well. Like, if I want to keep my job, something has to change. And yet everything I'm doing, all the action I'm putting into this, isn't yielding me the results that I'm after. So let's build a system around this, Greg, because this is something that happens to every salesperson eventually, even the high performers. Maybe the technology changes, the market changes, the economy shifts. And even though they still want to have that high performing mindset, the things that they're doing are not yielding them the results that they're after. So when we talk about building great systems, even on the battlefield, every new one trims away a little more hope from how we're operating. So this is going to be a system to help salespeople trim themselves out of that bad day. So we use this acronym TRIM. Now the T in TRIM is the trigger. I'm a salesperson. Maybe I'm one of those middle-class salespeople that you mentioned. And I noticed that no matter what I'm doing, I'm just not getting the results that I feel like I should be getting. I'm beginning to find myself in that slump. When do I trigger this system, Greg? Is it something that should be done on a regular basis? Does it happen when my results hit a certain standard that I'm not satisfied with anymore? When do I trigger a system to get me out of a slump?
Man, I would go back to how I would coach people, and then what they would do are two different things sometimes, right? And we've all seen
Yeah.
that. But we're talking now, let's talk about that sales rep listening that actually they desire for more. They want to put a down payment on a house. Maybe they want to get a rental home or something like that. They're really working for something and driving after it. And but man, their thoughts, the processes keep limiting them on a daily basis. So how we break out is probably the way I broke out of it. Every time I would fail at a sales process, and I knew I never at a sales call, like the customer goes, it's not really a good fit for me. I would sit in my car after every meeting and I'd write down what went wrong. And it was never the customer's fault. I always went back to me. It's like, it's something I'm missing. I'm not hearing them well. I'm not understanding what they're saying well. And maybe the way I'm presenting isn't connecting with them mentally and emotionally. And so what we found is that if I just take it, it's a daily process for me. It's a daily process. It's like if you're a praying person, a meditating person, whatever you do, it's like, what's the goal? What's the intention? And for me, I ask for wisdom every day. When I go to a sales call, meditate, prayer, however you do it, I don't ask that I could sell to the person. I ask, can I hear them? Because I'm confident if I can hear them, our product's going to fit their needs. And if it doesn't, that's okay. They're going to give me a referral for somebody else who will. And it's holding, I'm okay with the no. I just got to the point, I'm okay with the no. With people, if they say no, that's fine. But we've built a relationship. And I know that when I see them in the store, I've got somebody that feel like they've been respected, heard, and understood. And those are important to me.
So if I've got the trigger, then it happens daily, and it sounds like after every situation, right? If I find myself going into a slump, it's to own it first, to say this. It's an old Zig Ziglar quote: "If it's going to be, it's up to me." And to look at what I'm not doing that I know would make a difference if I could start doing it. I may not know what to start doing, but I know I'm not connecting as well as I should here. I'm not as positive as I should be. I'm not as helpful as I should be. Because if I was those things, then I would be getting different results. So if that's the trigger, let's move into the R in trim, which is making it repeatable. What are those 4 or 5 or maybe even 6 steps that you would walk a salesperson through to say, here's how you tactically get out of that slump? Once I identify, maybe here are the things I want to start doing that I'm not quite sure what they are yet, but I know it needs to change. What are those 4 or 5 steps that you would walk a salesperson through, Greg, to make sure that they're stepping through it in a repeatable way to get out of that slump every time?
First of all, I'd want to know, are the goals that they set for themselves attainable? And maybe you set goals that are way up here. And I love it that you set those, but what are some smaller ones we could set for you that you're not bummed out every moment of the day because you're not here? And so let's do some stepping stones that you like. You look at yourself in the mirror and go, I did that today. Good job. I feel good about myself today. Right. So I'd first start off with goals, and then I would start off with role playing. And it reminds me of one of the things that really got me out of my slump. When I was raised as a young man, my father told me at the time that I would not amount to anything. And so I made sure and led my life in my young 20s, proving him right. I was a rascal. And then finally one day, a gentleman came up to me, and I was at a sales training, and he had this little thin book. And he looked at me and he says, see this book in here? In here is a sales process. And I promise you, if you study this, you memorize this, that it will change your life forever and you will be successful. And when he said that to me, it was the first time somebody said, oh my goodness, you mean to tell me I'm not limited by my past, by what people have said about me, but my own limited beliefs? If I just study that, I'll be successful. And it blew my mind. So that night we're at this big conference, everybody's out partying. I went to my hotel room and I sat in front of a mirror, because that's what he said to do, and role play it and memorize it. And I did till 4 o'clock in the morning. And I worked my tail off. that next morning when we had to get up and show everybody what we learned and run through the process, I won. I went back and I cried because that changed my life forever. And so that's where I became just a process like fanatic. I'm going like, no, let's make the process better. And if you're uncomfortable, if you feel like you're pushing rocks uphill, if it doesn't fit who you are as a person, well, I can tweak the process a little bit. Let's see how we can do that to where you feel comfortable with it. But if you get off the tracks of that process, it's not going to end well for you, because that's what you've done your whole life up until this point. Maybe you had some success, but I'm talking about massive success that can give you the desires of your heart.
I love it. Love it. So if I've got first step of looking at goals, making sure they're attainable. Second step, role play that process so well that if you were going to compete against others for how well you could execute it, you would win. That's a great one. What else should I be doing? Final step.
And then I would look every day. Well, first of all, eat well, live well, be smart, treat yourself well, right? It's like you'll do better if you do that. And then I after every single sales call, I take stock. And how did I come across? Do people feel heard? Do they feel understood? And do they feel like listened to and respected? And if I can answer yes to that, even if they didn't buy from me, I'm feeling good and I know what the next steps are there. So in that stock taking, that's how the process, I've always gotten better at it, and I can change my mindset for the next one every time.
Amazing. That's great, man. That's great. So I've got maybe I think 3 or 4 great steps on the repeatable element. If we move into the iron trim, this is where we make this improvable. We always hear that phrase, more money, more problems. Well, if I use what you talked to me about, I'm going to make more money. I'm going to make more sales. It's a result of my prospects feeling more respected and more heard. But now my slumps are going to be bigger too, because it's not going to be just a little bit of money on the line. It's going to be a lot of money on the line. So how am I going to improve the way that I get out of my slumps over time, Greg?
Yeah. Consistency.
Yeah.
And it's like, because the problem will always be there. It never, I think that's the biggest lie in sales, that we think we're always going to get out and live at this plane where it's awesome all the time. And it's just not, and I've been doing this since the mid 90s. And there are days we talk about our book, Sales Sucks, right? And we talk about the why it sucks. And typically it's because we don't do the things we need to do in the process to get ourselves out of it. And so I find that the problems continue to grow, but I've kind of gotten to that mindset of like going, this is just life. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to learn how to walk through the valley and not have it mean a bunch of stuff. It's just like, I'm just going through the valley. It's just a tough time. So how do you get out of the valley? You do the same thing I did, back to basic training. What's the process? Do I need to adjust my process? Do I need to communicate it differently? And do I kind of just need to get off my neck and just go do the work and stop being so hard on myself? It never seems to stop from those areas.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. The more we get out there and sell, the more these problems will occur. That's the natural part of it. I think, like you said, a lot of salespeople make the mistake of thinking, well, if I sell more, then these problems go away. And no, they don't. They just change form. You deal with different buyers. They're going to have different problems. You get to relearn it. I think it's a lot like being a parent. As soon as I get a handle on one aspect of my child's development, they grow into a new set of challenges. And now I've got to master that set of challenges. So it happens in sales as well. It must be something to do with living. I don't know. It must be part of life. But if I've got my trigger, repeatable, improvable, let's move into the M in trim, which is measurable. Now, measuring how well I get out of my slumps, this is going to be an interesting response to get out of you, Greg, because just feeling good, I may feel good, but I may not be getting results now. I need to both feel better in my, get out of my slumps so I actually feel like a more successful human, but I also need to see results. So what am I going to measure to make sure that the way I'm getting out of my slumps is the right way for me and the way that I want to sell?
Yeah, well, for me, it was time. Like, what was the most valuable thing for me? It wasn't money. It was time with my wife and my amazing children. And I wanted to, I was a sole income provider, commission only sales. And I didn't have a choice. I had to perform. I didn't. And my wife came out of some serious health challenges, and we struggled financially. And so I didn't have a choice. So I've been in the bottom, right? And what we found is that the motivation factor that I have, and that enabled me to get up every day and to push really hard, was the goal of providing for my family and trying to be better than I was yesterday. So what I would measure time. So what's time? I would look at it as closing ratio, right? Because I know the amount of time that I'm out there talking to a customer. If I see 10 customers, if I can just close one more a month, that may, with the same amount of appointments, I'm hanging out with my family more often. So my motivation was that. And guess what? Money just followed. It just always does.
Yep.
So I always really looked at closing ratios. And then I really focused on referral business as well. Referral business means that I wanted to really take care of my customers. I wanted to make sure that they got what their heart's desire was. And so I put a lot of time in following up and continuous communication with them. And then they would give me more business, and I'd have to work less. It's a lot easier to close a referral than it is a new customer, right? No matter what business we're in. And so that's what I focused my energy and attention on, and was able to hang out with my kids.
And it's an end-to-end system, something that every salesperson could really benefit from, because if you're not in a slump now, you've never been in one, then just wait, because it's coming. But more than likely, you're experiencing these just as part of the ebb and flow of sales. And so now you've got a system for how to break yourself out of it so that you can be more of the person that you want to be with those that matter most. That's a really great way to round that system up, Greg. So you've got a new book coming out with a partner. You've got a platform I know that's going to be very helpful for salespeople to learn more about. Where do we find out more about it? How do we get deeper into your world?
So we have it's called Sales Sucks is the book, and it's a kind of the ultimate guide to scaling your business, and that'll be coming out very soon there, and you can find it at salespatter.io. And so what we did is it walks through our journey of scaling a team from 300 sales reps to 1,000 sales reps in a couple years, and from about 370 million in sales to $1 billion. And we got bought out and no outside investment. And it talks about our struggle in that, how we focused on training and developing people, and how we used sales enablement tools like sales that helped customers and sales reps make decisions. So we hit in that book not just sales processes, but if you're a small company, can I take an off-shelf product to make it work? And the answer is absolutely you can. But when you really want to scale, you start to grow your business, you want to implement AI into sales enablement that really help customers make decisions, help you coach your reps better. We talk about that process and how you can develop that stuff there as well.
Awesome, sir. We'll make sure that we're linking to that so folks can get a hold of you on LinkedIn. They can get deeper in your world that way. If you're catching us on the live stream here for Bulletproof Selling, hit that subscribe button. Or if you're listening on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, anywhere that podcasts can be found, leave us a review and let other salespeople know hope no longer has to be part of your strategy. Whether you're having a great day or you're in a sales slump, there are systems here at Bulletproof Selling so that you can make sure you are not just selling more, but I know something Greg would agree with, that you're serving more. Greg, thanks for giving back to the sales community with us today. Let's get out there and make selling bulletproof.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.